Hello, everyone. Welcome to Courageous Custody. I am Renee Rodriguez, creator of the Custody Blueprint.
And I'm Achara Tarfa, trauma-trained level 3 internal family systems practitioner. And I also founded the Global Trauma Institute with wonderful ladies. You know, Renee and I, we understand these unique challenges that protective parents face in the courtroom. And our mission every week is to equip you with strategic thinking and the emotional support that you need to navigate this difficult journey with strength and resilience.
So every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, bringing you inspiration and insight from stories about courageous parents who have walked in your shoes and emerged victorious in big ways and small, and practical strategies from us to help you advocate for your children and manage your trauma as you go through your custody case. So let's dive in. So we, as a reminder, are not giving legal advice or therapy.
Right. And if you are feeling triggered, we want you to take care of yourself. So step away, come join us in the comments.
So today's topic is how judges consider age in custody decisions and what every parent should consider. So let's start with age-based custody preferences. There's no magic number. When we're working, in different states and provinces, there are some judges in some jurisdictions who basically feel like 12 years old, even an 11-year-old can speak to what they want. And then there are those who would rather they were 14 or at least a teenager. And then there are lots of jurisdictions where they don't have anything down about age, right? And so what ends up happening is that they need to, with younger children, they need to focus on primary caregiving and stability. We're talking about infants and toddlers, right? And then as children get older, their own preferences do come up. The ability to express them becomes more relevant. So when we get to teenagers, they're given significant weight in expressing their desires. But it's not just about preference, right? These are kids. So it's also about developmental needs. So when you're thinking about, how do I get my children to speak up? Where are they developmentally? Each group has unique developmental needs that judges take into account. For infants, it's going to be about attachment and bonding. Who is that primary attachment figure? For preschoolers, it's about routine and structure. Who is the person who has the most stability? School-age children need support for their education and social development. Teenagers need independence and guidance. So if you're thinking about your kiddos, then really it's understanding these developmental needs. That's what's going to be crucial for framing your arguments in court. Now, when we talk about how to frame arguments for different age groups, for those younger children, again, focus on, are you the primary caregiver? Are you the primary attachment figure? And start looking at what is your involvement in daily routines, in medical care, in emotional support. And then when we get to school-age children, you want to emphasize your ability to support their education, their social activities. The social emotional stuff is so important. And of course, their extracurriculars. I mean, we see, I know, this is something we see quite a bit, right, Achara, where the other parent just doesn't take them to their extracurriculars, just feels like, well, this is my time. I'm not doing anything with the kids except keeping them home, right? So it's important to provide evidence of involvement in their school life and commitment to their well-being. And then when we get to teenagers, we are focusing on ability to provide guidance and support, but also to respect their growing independence. We want to show that you're willing to listen to their preferences and work with them to create a healthy co-parenting relationship. It's really, really important to just stick to what is the age group, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Achara, regarding the developmental trauma and, all the things that our parents need to think about. What do you think comes top of mind when it comes to how age can impact children in custody situations, how the court might see that?
Yeah, well, I think you hit it spot on. There are Erickson's stages of, psychosocial development that people that are, in the mental health sort of world talk about and look at and rely on. Your average psychologist, psychotherapist, therapist, and they talk about the different stages, right? Infancy to 18 months, 18 months to 3 years, 3 to 5, 5 to 13, and then just continues to go on. And through these different stages, they talk about virtues that are in each stage: hope and will and purpose and competency and love, and all of these different stages that go through trust and mistrust. So in regards to developmental trauma, it's really important. We talk often about your caregiver, whoever the primary caregiver is. It's so important to, when it comes to an argument sort of stance, right, for your case, to emphasize this, that if you are the primary caregiver or the parent that is taking care of, most of our protective moms are the primary caregiver, how important, especially in those younger years, how important that bond is, because they are in that trust mistrust stage when they're infants and they're young. And so getting to make sure that they are feeling safety, feeling I can trust not only this person, but the world around me and myself. Like, these are the foundational building blocks that occur at these young ages. So to have that as a foundation of your argument of why it's so important for you to be in your child's life, and not just, a certain percentage of the time, but the majority of the time, to be that primary caregiver, to make sure that you can lend that support. The other thing that and of course, as the ages go on, it goes into other different examples, and anybody can look up Erickson's stages of psychosocial development if they want to learn about that. But my biggest thing that I like to speak with our clients and my clients about when it comes to developmental trauma is that it's often not that a rupture occurs. It's often that a repair doesn't ever happen. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to go through experiences. Now, in some extreme cases, there's severity of neglect, right? We understand that and speak to that. But when there's no repair done by the person that caused the hurt, or even something as simple as I made a mistake, I forgot to put whatever, something in your lunchbox or something along those lines, something very, very simple. In those younger stages, those are big deals. And so when we're able to be with our children and be in a state of where we can repair any ruptures that come, that's how kids learn how to self-regulate. Because when they get older, there's all this discussion about independence and being able to be emotionally mature and all of those things. And if a child isn't ever able to learn those things, then self-regulation is much more difficult as they age. So they learn how to self-regulate through co-regulation, which is just that attuned sense that that primary caregiver has with that younger child. So you had a bad day? I'm so sorry you had a bad day. Do you want to just maybe go get some ice cream? Do you want to maybe read a book together? Whatever it is to hold that space for that child for when they are emotionally dysregulated, that is lending that co-regulation. You're going to lend your energy to the child, and that co-regulation helps them to understand and learn they can trust themselves and you and the world around them, and be able to self-regulate when they're on their own later on in life. That is the biggest thing, I think, Renee, that I have seen people not understand fully. And then when they do fully understand, it's this big aha moment that they have. Oh, I lost you for a second. Oh, I can't hear you. Is that me? Okay, there you go. Yes.
Technical fun stuff, right?
Yes. Always.
Yeah. And I think that, what it boils down to is, what is it that we're trying to get the court to even do when we want to bring our children in? For example, we had, I think, late last year, we had a client, Amanda, And Amanda was basically trying to get her child, who has special needs, to be seen by the court. Now, normally, and I think this is important to say, it's not strategically the best thing in the world to actually suggest to the court that they see your kids. It increases the chances that it seems like you are coaching them, right? So in this case, we did want the child to be in front of the judge because the child was it was so clear that there were special needs here that led this child to be complete, like unabashedly, sometimes, honest in a way where you're kind of like, trying to teach them about sensitivity. But, this child was someone who, once the judge saw this child, they would truly understand what was going on, right? But there's a danger in that. And so for the most part, I think we have to caution parents to want to be the ones to put their children in front of the judge to make that decision, right? But on the flip side of that, when the other side wants the children to come forward, of course, if you've got an abuser, now they're coaching the children. Otherwise, why else would they want the children to be in front of the judge when they're abusive, right? And they have a sense, this whole sort of, oh, they're mentally ill. When you're narcissistic, you're mentally ill. There's only too many experts who say no, but they're still aware of what they're doing. Right. And so trying to hide it and trying to coach the child is something that I think that our protective parents should be very concerned about. So then that becomes the bigger question, doesn't it, Achara? Should the children be seen by the court at all? Because on the one hand, the children should have a voice. This is their lives. Yeah. But again, as we've been talking about developmentally, are they really able to do so? And I would say that it depends on the child, because some children absolutely can go up there. They can say exactly what they're feeling. It is definitely what they're feeling and what they know would be best for them. And they're not going to be traumatized by having to go and do it. But there are plenty of children who, we hear them as adults talk about the fact that being part of the court case being put in was problematic. And so I think there's a lot of considerations before we do it. But the optics are, be careful of trying to push your child forward. Now, children's voices are heard, I do want to say, by a guardian ad litem, right? Or by an attorney for the children. We would hope that their voices are being heard should that court professional be good at what they're doing. The other places with the custody evaluation, they are going to spend some time with the children, or at least they normally do as part of the process. And that's a way for the children to be able to say, what they're feeling. But for the most part, most of these professionals are just asking them questions to help that professional lead to an answer, rather than saying, who do you want to live with? What do you think? Many of them do, but not all of them, right? So there's a lot of considerations here, I think.
Yeah, it's such a layered topic, Renee. You have to take into consideration the age of the child. And then age doesn't necessarily, match development, right? Because you have special needs children as well. So all of that has to be, and trauma,
that makes
right? So there's emotional.
Younger than you are. I mean, that's why people say, yeah, my kid is 11, but a soft 11. They're suffering trauma from the narcissistic co-parent.
That's right. So, that their emotional well-being needs to come into play, how mature they are. Because even, we know, especially when we deal with teenagers, right? Oftentimes teenagers are very much peer focused at that age. They're not as necessarily, and studies have shown this, they're not as necessarily focused on what mom and dad think and mom and dad's approval. It's more that's when they begin to sort of, Dan Siegel talks about this, that they start to look at their horizontal plane. And we want that. That's a good thing, right? That's why we care about the kind of people our children hang out with, because that's when they're starting to look for that. And so, considering that sort of age, just because they are of age appropriate, right? They're the teens, they can come in and testify in court. Is that really where they want to be, right? Is that something that we want to really put on them? Because oftentimes their focus is not on that. It's on the world outside of what is going on there. So it's, again, we say age, but it's not always just that. There's so many layers.
Yeah, agreed. This is a layered topic. But that's about all we'll cover for this week's episode. Sort of some thought-provoking stuff. This episode of Courageous Custody. But before we go, thank you so much for joining us, whether live or on replay. We're grateful to have helped in any way we may have. We have some great takeaways for this week. You want to understand how age influences custody preferences. You want to tailor arguments to your child's developmental needs. You want to emphasize your ability to provide age-appropriate support. And really, you want to check your local state and province to see what age children's voices can come into the court in your jurisdiction.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next week, join us again at 7 p.m. Eastern here. Like or follow or bookmark us so that you can get the notifications and not miss anything, because what Renee and I are talking about might catch you right when you need it.
Leave your own comments below. And wherever you are listening, remember, you're not alone. Until next week, stay strong, stay informed, and keep fighting for what matters most. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.